Okay, guys, our next lesson will be factoring special cases. So, this is our next lesson. Please focus. We have factoring by grouping, so this one and another one, and we finish for unit, I think unit 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, unit 4. So let's start. Factoring special cases. So this one. It's almost the same thing. We just need to add one more step from the previous lesson, which is factoring trinomials. So for example, in this case, we have 9b squared plus 48b plus 64. Okay? So 9b squared plus 48b plus 64. Now focus, because you can do here, you don't have, for example, you don't have to do what we did. Remember, we did factoring by grouping. We took A, we took B, and we took C, and we asked ourselves two numbers. If you add them, you get A. If you add them, you get B, and if you multiply them, you get AC. In this case, if you look at the first term and the last term, okay? And if you do the square root for the first one and the square root of the last one, that's the way. So the square root of 9b squared is going to be 3b, okay? Because 3 times 3 is 9, and b times b is b squared. And the square root of 64 is 8. And this will be your answer, okay? Because everything is positive, the answer would be 3b plus 8 squared. So the answer would be the third one. That is it, okay? Got it? Of course, if you simplify this parentheses, you're going to get the same thing. You have any questions, guys? That's it. Just do the square root of the first one, the square root of the last one, and you get the answer. Now, in the previous lesson, we couldn't do that because we didn't have a square root. Okay? So, the answer is the third one. Now, if we go to this one, we need to factor this expression. Now, this one is not a trinomial, so, and it's easier. This one is not a trinomial, so it's supposed to be easier. So we have 4r squared minus 64. Now this one is what? A binomial. A binomial, because we have two terms. Now in this case, you also do the square root for both of them. Okay? You also do the square root for both of them. But before you do the square root, or there's an easier way. The easier way is, we need to make the first term squared and the other term squared, like this one. If we have a squared minus b squared, remember we did this one? This is the polynomial identity. It's the same as a plus b times a minus b. So we need to put this term exactly like this one, squared minus b. The r is squared, but the 4 is not squared. So we need to find out which number to square. We get the 4. It's the 2. So it's going to be 2r squared. So the first term is squared now. 2 squared is 4, and r squared is here. I didn't change the expression. Minus the 64. Which number do I square? It gives me 64. It's the 8. So 8 squared. Now, as you can see, I have the first term is squared, and the second term is also squared. Now I can use the polynomial identity. So it's going to be the first will be the same, the first term will be the same, and the second term will be the same. So once I need to add him, and the other time I need to subtract him. So it's going to be 2r plus 8 times 2r minus 8. Okay? 2r plus 8 times 2r minus 8. This one 2r squared minus 2r plus 8 minus times 2r minus 8. That is it. Now, which one of these are the answer? If you look at it, which one do you think is the answer? Like for example, here 4 times negative 4 is negative 64. So of course this one is the wrong answer. 16 times 5 is negative 9. So of course this one is not the answer. Negative 4, 16, but of course it's going to be 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. Of course this one is r squared, so it's going to be 4r squared. And 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. Times the 4 is going to be negative 64. So the first one is the answer. The first one is the answer. And here you can do the same thing, guys. It's the same as this one. It's the same as this one. How it's the same as this one? What's in common between 2r and 8? What's the GCF, the greatest common factor? It's 2, because 2 divides by 2 and 8 divides by 2. And what's the GCF between here? It's also 2. So 2 times 2, it's going to be 4. And inside, it's going to be r plus 4 and r minus 1. So it's the same thing. So you could have taken out the GCF, the 4 at the beginning. That is it. Let's go. We'll do more examples. Like this one. This one is also an easy one. Okay. We have r squared minus 49. The same thing, guys. The same thing. Remember, we need two squared numbers when we have something like that. So the r is already squared. I need to think of the 49. Which number do I square give me 49? It's the 7 squared. Now once we add them, once we subtract them. So r plus 7, r minus 7. That is it. So the answer would be the third one. So the third one is the answer. This one is also the same thing, guys. They're exactly the same as the first question that we did in this quiz. So we have 49b squared plus 70b plus 25. So remember, this is special factoring. So we take the first one, do the square root of the first one, and the square root of the last one. The square root of this first one is 7b, okay? Because 7 times 7 is 49, and b times b is b squared. The square root of the last one is 5, so you add the 5. And of course, you square it. So it's going to be 7b plus 5 squared. So the answer will be the second one. You see, this one is an easy one if you focus. It's the second. So let's solve this one. This one we did it like, would it one like it? It's the same thing, okay? It's the same. Like, what's the square root of d squared in this case? Or 1d squared? It's d. What's the square root of 4? It's also 2. Now, because we have negative, so it's going to be minus 2. And u squared. So it's going to be d squared. 2 times negative 2 times d is negative 4d, and negative 2 squared is 4. So d minus 2. Remember, you do the square root of the first one, the square root of the second one, of the last one, sorry. Okay. Let's go to 6. The same thing, guys. The square root of 49b squared is going to be, I hope you can see it. It's the same as we did. The square root of 49b squared is going to be 7b. The square root of 9 is going to be 3. 7b plus 3. And u squared. The same thing. Let's do it just to make sure we're not going to lose anything. As you can see, this one is easier because it has easier methods for you to find the answer. So we have 4b squared plus 28b plus 49. So you do the square root for the first one, the square root for the last one. It's going to be 2b. Again, why? Because 2 times 2 is 4. b times b is b squared. The square root of 49 is 7, because 7 times 7 is 49. And you add them and you square them. because 7 squared is 49, remember? And 2b squared is 4b squared. So it's going to be, that's 2b plus 7, I think. Yeah. The same thing, guys, there's no difference. I'm going to skip it. You square the first one and square root the last one. Let's do this one as the last question. We need to factor the expression k squared minus 108 squared. Same thing, as you can see, we have a binomial, which means we need to get the polynomial identity, the subtraction of squares. So we have k squared minus 108 squared. The k is squared, the h is squared, but the 100, it's not squared. So which number do I square? I get 100, it's the 10. So it's going to be k squared minus 10h in parentheses squared. Now I have two terms that are squared. It's the k and the 10h. So it's going to be k plus 10h times k minus 10h. And that is the answer. Peace. And then it's the second one. That is it. Okay, that is it, guys, for today for factoring special cases. Next time we're going to do factoring by grouping. We already did some practice when we factored trinomials. But we'll do one more practice. It's going to be factoring by grouping. And when we finish factoring by grouping, we're going to finish Unit 4. Have a great day.